at Notting Hill Genesis, and for a while now I've been kind of chairing these meetings on behalf of the BIM4Housing group. Two of the other key players who I'm sure you'll be more than aware of, George as chair of the BIM4Housing group and from Active Plan, and George tends to be the primary spokesman in these affairs, filling us with new knowledge and things to talk about. And then yeah, probably Richard needs no introduction either. Um, oh, were you going to say something? Oh, okay. The we with the meeting invite that Liz kindly sent around, we put an agenda together. So broadly, there are kind of four topics for our conversation today. We want to talk another little bit about fire strategies. We've talked about those a little bit before, but we felt that we wanted to kind of revisit that. Um, George has got some interesting things. I don't mean to put you on that pedestal, George. I hope they're interesting. I'm sure they will be. Talk about AWAB's law that I'm sure most of us will be familiar with, but the context of it today is about how it impacts new developments, particularly. So that's one topic. Uh, Regulation 38 documents, again, it's a conversation that we've had previously. There is another subgroup as part of the BIM4Housing community that is looking at digital handovers, particularly. We felt there might be some updates from those conversations that it would be useful to share with this group. And then a personal one from me. We're having some challenging conversations about e-bikes and how within the development community, in the absence of any guidance, we need to be responding to e-bikes, if indeed we need to respond at all. So those are the topics for today. As always, if there are other topics that you'd like to introduce into the conversation, then that would be fine, as long as we've got time to do it. But if not, we can always pick them up for the next time. George, I don't know if you would like to add anything to that by way of introduction.
Uh, yeah, I was going to say that one of the things that I think we want to start doing generically is better understanding what the impact is of non-compliance, because I'm we're experiencing at the moment a sort of a lack of engagement in some ways. I think lot of the people on the information management front are are struggling to get some sort of traction from people
Mm-hmm.
because you know there's not that many people. Well, until quite recently, the view was, well, nobody's being prosecuted.
Mm.
The regulator doesn't have the bandwidth to do anything, so why should we bother? Now, I think that's changed hugely in the last few weeks. I think that the regulator seems to be getting their act together. It's obviously gone through a transition anyway. And the other thing is that there's been prosecutions, or not so much prosecutions. There's been court cases,
Yeah.
and what we'd like to do, ask everybody to keep their eyes out for any examples of financial impact, because at the end of the day, if it's not impacting on finance, then you know, or prosecution, it seems that people are reasonably relaxed about it. We want
Mm.
to overcome that, I think.
George, do you want to
Interesting.
show the page? It is ready.
Oh yeah, yes,
It's up to you.
yes,
It's just a thought.
yeah. So what I was going to say is that there's several projects that we we know about that have happened recently where where there's claims been done. So for example, um, Mace are suing currently. They're suing Mighty for um, for um,
5
for
million, I
their
think.
for fire dampers. yeah, £5 million, I think. Also, which is quite an interesting one. That comes back to things that Paul McSolly was explaining to us a while ago.
On what grounds? On what grounds, George? The dampers are not fit for purpose.
Yeah, they put the wrong dampers in for the wrong for that type of wall.
Right. Okay.
So if I just these are just a few that I've come up with, and what we actually want to do, as Richard's saying there, we're creating.
Have you got it, or do you want me to share it?
I think have you got it up there, Richard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you see that?
Yeah, got it.
There you go. So basically, and this is for everybody to contribute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Add an impact, and you put the name of the organisations there. A brief two-liner on what the impact was, the financial impact was. Is it a legal action, or is it just financial implication that a council or somebody has discovered? Where's it come from? In this case, Construction News. A web link, and then in the comments, if you look on the comments, you'll see more detail of that particular occurrence. We've got about 6 or 7 up there already. But that's just how to navigate it. And also, basically, if you want to add something, just click on there, and it's very simple.
How do we source this page, Richard?
It's right. Hold on. If on the BIM and Asset Management homepage,
Yeah.
you go down to financial impact.
Okay.
Yeah, it's under Knowledge Hub. Everything on our site now is all on that homepage.
Okay.
And it should be, I hope, self-explanatory as to where everything is. If you just scroll down. So there's financial impact. So you can use that as a resource for yourselves, obviously to give examples, but also to help build the resource by giving your own.
And is it possible? I mean, I know it's a fairly straightforward thing to navigate to, but is it possible to put a link in the chat or something like that for people to use?
Absolutely, I will do that right this second.
Okay, mate. No, fantastic. I mean, while I guess we're on the subject, and kind of opening it up to the floor a little bit, are there examples that people here today, obviously only ones that you're able to talk about, but are there examples that people have got of proceedings being brought as a consequence of court cases or claims? It's hard to know what the profile of people are that we've got on the call, so it's hard to point this question in any one direction. But I mean, if anyone's got anything that they're happy to share, then aha. Yeah.
So not anything that's led into a court case or anything for that matter at the moment, but with the recent regulation changes for things like fire barriers that then needed the enhanced specification to meet EN requirements.
Yeah.
We were working on a project where everything had been signed off. Everyone was happy with it. And then the EN requirements came in whilst there were things that had been installed. And the requirement was, no, you need to fit everything to the EN, because at that point, the manufacturer had revoked all of their certificates online, which meant that none of this information was then going to be signed off by an EWS1 provider.
Yeah.
And whilst it hasn't led to anything, it does have a financial impact and a program impact. And I just feel like that leans in slightly to where some of these things can affect.
Yeah, the EWS1 argument's an interesting one, isn't it? Because the EWS is essentially a risk assessment, isn't it? It's not a compliance assessment. So it's I guess what you're talking about there is compliance with the latest standards. So it's more of a compliance issue. Whereas I say EWS is typically a risk assessment. So I mean, where are people at in that conversation?
In the end, it went to the stance that, okay, we will just fit everything with the EN product, and
Right.
the cost just kind of had to be absorbed and managed elsewhere.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to know if that had all been signed off as a building with what had previously been agreed, and then
Yes.
and then the manufacturer had pulled their certificates. Where does that then leave a project? Because
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
when building regs change and things are no longer accepted, are you then required to go back and do remedial works to correct all of this? And who does that stand on?
I was going to say who carries the risk for this? You know, is that a client cost or does it end up being a contractor's cost?
I think
sorry.
at the time that would probably have to be absorbed by the client,
Yeah.
because during the point of construction, everything is
Yeah.
in
Compliant.
accordance with the building regulations, and it's only then when you don't have that certificate available, somebody has to make a decision. Okay, we need to do remedial works on this.
Yeah. Interesting. No, thanks for sharing that.
Okay.
Oh, go on, George.
No, I was just going to say part of the issue at the moment is this whole thing about risk transfer, because I think people still don't really get the fact that you can't transfer the risk anymore.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's still dancing around that particular argument. I was talking with somebody earlier in the week who this is on a PFI, but it's the same sort of thing, really. And he was saying, well, you know, we've so how are you managing the situation with guaranteeing compartmentation? Because we were talking about fire strategies, right? And the compartmentation lines changing as a result of the fire strategy, which is I think that's a really interesting point that we ought to discuss in a moment. But I was saying to him, in terms of being able to identify the assets that are making up the compartment, how are you managing that? And they gave me the name of a fire stopping application that the contractor was using. The Bolster, good application. So I said, so if they're using Bolster, what about all the other assets that are part of that compartment? And he said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, you know, the whole purpose of having fire stopping is to be part of a system that's preventing the spread of smoke. And that was lost on him. Yeah. And then he said, well, I said, what about inspections? You know, how are you auditing that the inspections have been done? He said, well, that's part of what they do in the CAFM. Yeah.
Doing the what?
In the computer aided facilities management system. So the maintenance management system. Yeah,
okay.
Sorry. The CAFM system.
Yeah.
And I said, right, okay. Is it really? Are you saying that they're in the CAFM, they're inspecting, they're recording? He said, well, I think so. Yeah. And therefore, the way I think he was looking at it was that he's outsourced the risk to an FM contractor, or he thinks he has. But actually, I'm absolutely confident that work, that you know, that they're not recording that against that particular asset.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's an interesting one, that what I think need to be doing is helping clients up the scale, as it were, not for them to do more work necessarily, but to do things in a smarter way. Because a lot of the information, it's becoming very clear, a lot of the information is actually being collected, and people are are doing their best, but because it's not joined together,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
broken.
Yeah. And just to act as a bit of a segue into the conversation that we were going to have about fire strategies, what I'm finding, kind of liaising with our building safety colleagues and our asset management colleagues, is the fire strategy document for them seems to be the kind of first place that they go to in terms of trying to understand a building. And there are a number of features of the fire strategy document itself that proves to be a bit challenging. The first one, and probably the most important one, is very rarely does the fire strategy document represent the as-built condition. Quite often it can be a document that was written as part of the design process.
Yes.
But rare, and I'm not saying it never happens, because we've got examples of where it has. But quite often that document is not updated to kind of reflect what was actually built. So it's a key document that is almost misleading or potentially misleading from the start. Similarly, the way in which fire strategies typically are drafted by fire engineers is they very rarely tell you what the actual solution is. What they'll talk about is what the standards are that are expected to be met. But and it's a mismatch. It's a mishmash. It's a mishmatch of what the solutions are, but also what the standards are to be met. So again, not always comprehensive enough. And I guess the challenge then is you've then got to source a whole load of extra data from whatever source that is, whether that's as-built drawings, whether it's as-built records, quality assurance records, call it what you will. You're always trying to assimilate a whole load of information from a lot of sources in order to make sense of what actually has been constructed. And so for us, one of the things we're trying to drive is at least to try and get the fire strategy document produced as an as-built record. My understanding as to why that has rarely happened in the past is that comes at a cost. You've got to re-employ somebody in order to update that document and make sure it truly reflects, what's actually been constructed.
Yeah.
The reason for raising it, and I know that you want to talk about a specific aspect of it, George, but just curious as to what other people's experiences are of developing fire strategies, using fire strategies. Is there more we can be doing as development purchasers, if you like, to get better information around the fire strategy? Yeah, I just open it up to the floor as to anyone's got any views or has got different experiences to ours.
David, I've just got to pop away for a moment, so
Okay.
please carry on. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So, and again, it's hard to know the profile of the people on the call. So apologies. But has anyone else got any views of fire strategies and what else we can be doing to try and produce kind of better quality documents around that?
Hi, David. My name's
Hi.
Bex. I'm from Riverside Housing.
Hi.
So just
Good to
to add
almost
on
see
to
you.
that, I agree actually because what I tend to find off, I don't know if this is really the right answer, but what I'm tending to find is that I'm having to go out to other contractors to get me to build me a scope of works to find out what actually is the solution. So in that aspect, I just wanted to just reiterate that I have exactly the same problem. It might come back and it's quite vague.
Yeah.
It might say that it is purpose built, but he agrees that it should be a simultaneous evacuation. Okay, well, it should be then a stay put. So what's wrong with it then for me to get to there?
Yeah.
It might say, we need more information. Okay, well, what kind of information? How in depth are we looking? Because a lot of the times on these buildings that I'm kind of thinking about in my head, they're Victorian, some of them are Georgian. I'm never going to get blueprints for them to know exactly what the ins and outs are.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm only 31 years old, so my experience is not, it's not vast, but it means that I'm having to rely on trying to gather the information of different contractors, but it's understanding what information you want in,
Yeah.
especially with, a lot of people are coming into this industry, might not have a kind of like surveying kind of
Yeah.
background to understand.
You need quite a broad knowledge and a broad set of experiences to kind of understand fire strategy, don't you? Because they're so multifaceted.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
What's
that's what I'm kind of getting at. So if you've not got that, I think it'd be really helpful for
Yeah.
not everybody is going to be a surveyor in the an ex-surveyor or that kind of background. So it's
Yeah.
these new people coming into the industry who are going through their building safety qualifications.
Yeah.
It's helping them understand where to go and get the information that we need.
Yeah. Thanks, Rebecca. Rebecca, forgive me. What's your role at Riverside?
I manage all high-rise fire doors.
Okay. All right.
So
That's an interesting task.
yeah, sadly, because Riverside is so big, we've got over like 200 odd high-rise buildings.
Sure.
We've had to break down the roles of high-rise buildings into certain people, otherwise it would be too big.
Yeah. Okay. Um, thank you, Rebecca. Simon's raised a point in the chat about and we always seem to arrive at this place when we talk about consultants around the professional indemnity insurance and what it is that they're prepared to do and where they're not. And I guess the risk that we're alluding to here is even if we were to get a fire consultant to produce an as-built fire strategy, to what extent are they prepared to underwrite that it is actually a true reflection of what has been built? Because the only way that you can truly do that, I guess, is to have a regular site presence and have the data and the evidence to be able to support that. I guess, Simon, that's kind of what you're alluding to there. Sorry to poke a question at you. No.
Which Simon is it?
Oh,
Is it Simon Collery?
Simon Fullard. He's
Oh,
putting he agrees with me. He's just written yes in the chat. That's fine. Thanks,
yeah.
Simon. I'm not talking complete nonsense then. That's good. Um, okay. Well, I guess I guess this is something fairly fundamental that we've got to get sorted. Whether that's making sure that fire strategy documents are the complete version of what we need them to be, or as George says, whether we just need to, and I guess this is at the essence of what BIM4Housing is all about, getting all of the information together in one place. So it's joined up, and we're looking at things as systems rather than as individual components. George,
Yeah. So
what,
the 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 fire strategy plan thing actually came out of work that we've been doing in PFI
yeah,
that is equally relevant to housing. So what I could do is just show you the work that sort of spawned it, and then
okay.
how we've then been relating it to residential, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course, that'd be really helpful. And I know you want to also talk about conversations that you've had in the past with people about where fire strategies come into conflict with access strategies.
That's part of this
Yeah.
actually. Um, I'll be able to illustrate that. So this these are large hospital projects that Equans, in this case, are running.
Can everyone see that? Okay. Do we need to enlarge it slightly? There you go.
Better.
There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So and in fact, some work's going on in this area in Brighton at the moment. So this one here, this is a big hospital in Birmingham. So all of the fire walls, the different fire compartments are actually being defined in the spatial model. So you know what that space is being used for, who's responsible for it. And importantly, in hospitals, they're often changing the use of spaces. And that can have a big impact on what the fire strategy was and something that's changed. And what they've been explaining to us is that by doing a follow-up fire strategy, you can actually identify some assets that are no longer in compartment walls, and therefore they no longer need the same level of maintenance and inspections, and that can save a lot of money. So in this case, this is just illustrating where all the luminaires are, all the fire, the emergency lighting is, and what circuit it's on, and things like that. So these are the sorts of things that we're trying to get to with housing. So if I just power through this, so here we've got in this case this is ventilation, but this is showing how which air handling units are delivering to which spaces. And from that perspective, then looking at these are operating theatres. So if they become out of commission, or if they're not getting the right ventilation to them, they can't be used.
Mm-hmm.
So there's large penalties being addressed against them. So this is a combination not just of fire, but also operational use and what's working. So this is a residential block where what we're doing here, we're relating the fire zones actually to the information model itself. So here we've got a spatial model that's come from the O&Ms. It's been created from the O&Ms, and each of those spaces are intelligent spaces, but they're then grouped together into spaces that are performing a function.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the compartments, these are what are being addressed by the fire alarm system. And we can then bring in things like drawings and reflected ceiling plans and things like that. So rather than it being information that's in different files that you're then having to cross-relate, it's a lot easier to bring together. So this is a fire strategy example where this space here, it's not just a space, but we know not just the number, but we can very easily see that it's a mist system plant room. So it's a plant room, and that's why it's got a 120-minute door on it.
Yeah.
We've got a 120-minute door here as well. So, and that's because that's a battery store. So the relationship between the space and the fire protection assets that are in there is important. But what we're also then able to do is see where the fire compartment drawings are. So you've got the cross relationship between the asset, the space, and the measures of protection that have been put in place. And then these assets themselves have been read from the schedule, the floor plans, and also the schedules, the installer schedules. So we've got a record here. Again, this has been provided normally as a separate document, but by gluing it together, it means that you've got the record of what was done when it was installed. So when somebody then maybe in 3 years' time, 5 years' time is doing an inspection, they can be inspecting against the same parameters.
Yeah.
And you can then identify whether something has changed. And something that people might consider trivial, which is maybe the ironmongery, for example, clearly isn't, because that can be the thing that can, really trip you up.
Yes.
So the challenge is being able to tie together this complex information, which is normally represented in different documents, and then being able then to relate that back in a more meaningful way. Tom, you've got a question? Oh, sorry, go on.
No, go, Tom.
Hi all, yeah, just a quick one. So Tom from Symmetry here. I've just got a question on a point that Rebecca raised before. Rebecca, you mentioned around that from Riverside's perspective, you focus on just the fire doors then. How does that tend to work across your team? If you mentioned that you have an individual working in different areas, how do you bring that together and make sure you're working sort of in the same environment and direction?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I guess one of the things I wanted to come on here was also to have a look at like the system that they're using as well, because I think one of the difficult parts of Riverside I find is probably the systems that they're using don't support that. So we haven't got a good enough, I don't think, a cross function to be able to see what we're working in, what other people are working in. I guess the only positive, if you can find a positive in it, is probably the gateway, because we have a team that help with our gateway applications. So if we go to with our gateway, it usually gets picked up then by going, oh well, hang on, someone else is doing something here, that so we can add it to one gateway application.
I think that's a really interesting point, Rebecca, that what everybody's doing at the moment, they're looking at the gateways as being the if we can get through that gateway, phew, we've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Whereas,
I think as well, there's so many that get. I can't tell you for how many I've put through at the minute that I've had a clean one, and I don't think that is because as a company we don't know how to do them. I think it's because the goalposts are changing every time. But what is okay to do with one, I will replicate with another building very similar, and the goalposts change.
absolutely. I think the criticality is making sure that we've got the basics right, and I think it's a matter of confidence. The regulators are nervous as well at the moment. They're learning, I think, and I think if we can make sure that we've got we can actually demonstrate that we've got a coherent regulation 38 or fire and emergency file set of information, I think that helps a lot.
Mm.
JP, and forgive me, I've only got your initials. Please
Yeah, that's what I
yourself.
refer to it. That's John Paul.
You respond to JP.
I was going to ask George, the drawings and information that you're showing there, that's obviously for a public sector scheme would have probably been a full BIM level 2. That kind of demands that requirement for all that Kobe and the uni class data to be fed in, which then allows you to produce this information. I think it's quite common to get a lot of pushback to get some of that information from contractors and consultants, because there's such big fees associated with putting all of this information and detail and data into models and drawings. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges that you face for being able to do this, and then to associate all of that information into what can go into sensor data and everything that you can use to then monitor and manage a property, it's great to have it there, but it's getting that data from the
Yeah,
first
so
point of view, I think, is
Yeah.
the struggle.
in answer to your question, none of the ones I've shown you up till now have we had any BIM data or COBie data.
So was this all produced aftermarket by another consultant again, which I guess would have had another fee associated?
Yeah, what in these cases, these are PFI hospitals, and some of them were built sort of 15 years ago, 10 years ago, even more recently than that.
Mhm.
The example that I was just showing you, this one here actually, this one here, the only information that we've had was what was handed over in the Zootech M&M manuals. Yeah. So we've reverse engineered it from that, which yeah, we're doing another one at the moment that we can show you an example of. But you're quite right that there's an additional cost of doing that. It should have been done correctly in the first place. And the client is probably paying for that to be done, but it's not being done with the mindset of asset management.
Yeah,
Which
I
is
think a common trend is the data is put in to get a project constructed,
yeah,
and then it's handed over and they get to kind of wash their hands of it to a point. And when you're looking at the whole life of a building afterwards, that's where all this information
yeah.
comes in really vital and
Mm.
essentially starts to pay for itself after. But it's getting that quality of the data input that I think can be a bit of a struggle at the moment.
It's also purpose as well, JV. So, for example, what I'm showing you here is really being able to glue things together so we can demonstrate Regulation 38 compliance, and also we can tie it back to documents that are in the other information set. So, for example, the fire stopping information here, this fire stopping information came in a fairly traditional PDF form. And what we've then done is then identified where each of those fire stopping assets are. And we've translated the locations from those individual PDF plans and brought them back in. We've used COBie to bring them back into a spatial model. So we've got the coordinates of that. So you can then see them in a joined up way. So in this case, we've actually got the fire stopping in the same view that you've got the fire doors, in the same view that you've got the drawings that are indicating where the compartments are. Now, ideally, this would have come as part of a proper BIM delivery, but in practice, it doesn't really happen because
No.
that installation information is likely to be done by a specialist subcontractor who, why would they put it back in a BIM model? It just doesn't work that way. So the principle that we're working on is that clients like David, you're paying for this work to be done. You're paying for the information to be collected. If we can use more standardization and methods to glue it together, then it can be used for lots of different purposes.
Yeah. Jay and Andrew and Tim, I appreciate your patience. I'll come to you in a second, but JP, where are you from, and what's your role?
So I'm a Sovereign Network Group, affordable housing provider, building information manager.
Okay.
I've just come into this role from an architectural background though, so I'm still wearing two hats at the moment.
So just to kind of build on some of the things that you were saying, and this is going to be heresy to George, but I'll say it anyway. What's happening in our asset management team at Notting Hill Genesis is we're finding we've got more experts in that team than we've ever had before. We've got specialists that kind of understand what it is that they're dealing with, and that's not a criticism of what's gone before. It's just how the team has evolved kind of over time. And it's them that are starting to pull this information out of our development system. So their thirst for this information is growing, but there still isn't a real burning platform to get the data and the information to the level of detail that George is sharing. And I'm not suggesting that that's wrong. What I'm trying to say here is as clients, you tend to you tend to be fairly cautious with what you're investing in. There's a value for money conversation to be had, so in terms of investing in systems and data that gives you the level of information that George is alluding to, what's the return on that investment? And we're finding that our asset management colleagues are certainly thirsting more information than they've ever wanted before, and thankfully we're providing it. But I'm just curious as to where the burning platform will come from, because we thought the building safety regulator was going to be the burning platform. And the sorts of models that George is sharing with us now was going to become the norm. But I'm not sure we're anywhere near that yet. And I don't get the sense that the regulator is yet expecting to see the kind of level of systems that George is talking about. And again, this isn't a criticism of everyone. I get the sense this is the kind of journey that we're on. I don't know if anyone would agree with that, or I've got any comment. And Andrew and Tim, forgive me. I can still see.
Yes, do you know? I think it's actually, David, good point you raised there, and I kind of work in the resi sector as a managing agent on mobilisation.
Yeah.
One thing I can say is that if you like, my clients tend not to have procured any BIM model, and they because they've told me actually don't procure any as-built either at this moment in time.
Wow.
So it does create a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
My question is,
sure.
and I think I know my answer to this one, but I'm interested in everybody else's answer, is what do we all think that Gateway 3 is going to deliver for us? Do we think that it's going to the occupation can't take place until the building safety regulator signed off the documentation, i.e. the kind of digital handover of information, at which point occupation can take place? Now, I'm not convinced that solves our problems, because all we're verifying at that particular point, or validating, is that we've got information. The question therein lies, and there's the opportunity is for someone to then physically check that cable type is of a particular rating and the appropriate rating, and that ties up with the drawing. And I think there's a disparity between the digital data and the physical installation, which means that Gateway 3, in my personal view, means that actually it doesn't add any value.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure I'm going to answer your question, but I'll offer an opinion. And please, and anyone else that wants to share, please do. But we've not been through a Gateway 3 process yet, and I'm sure many others haven't. But my sense is that at its core, it's about, as the owner and operator of the building, can you demonstrate a true understanding of what your building is, how it's been built, what the risks are associated with managing that building, and how are you going to manage that risk? And I think through the documentation and through the story that you tell, you're trying to, but you need to demonstrate to the regulator that you're in control of all of those things, and you're managing them properly. I'm not expecting the regulator to ask a building owner to demonstrate they know what every single cable is in the building, or know what every single fire door is that's in the building. I don't know. In the same way that I'm not expecting the regulator will say where is where is your digital model aligned with what George is sharing today? I don't know, but I just don't get the sense that we're going to be asked to be able to evidence to that level of detail, and I don't know whether that's right or whether that's wrong.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think the level of detail, I think the evidence is what was planned, and then obviously validating against what was built, i.e. the as built. But I
Yeah,
think we're in a situation where, if we're not careful, best endeavours is my word this week. I've used it a few
yeah,
times.
yeah,
Um, Best endeavours would suggest that we're kind of doing our bit. We are raising concerns, raising a flag, putting a hand up, etc., and being able to actually just loading up files that say that we've done our bit.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I've my fear for the longer term is that actually that's the best we're going to get, is what we did say. We have highlighted it, we have flagged it. Um, I can't. I'm a bit skeptical. I'd like to say the future's bright. I'm not entirely convinced that it is, because not everybody is investing in the same way that they are in their BIM,
yeah,
digital twin photography, whatever it might be.
yeah,
Um, to the point where actually, I actually think it's a bit risky.
yeah. Okay.
And that's just a comment. It's not a question to anyone. It's just
Yeah,
a point I
it's a
just wanted to raise.
really interesting observation, and a conversation that George and I have kind of had in the past a little bit. But Tim, you've been very patient, my friend. You sat there with your hand up. Please go
Okay,
on.
so thanks, David. So I was just going to reiterate, because I've done a lot of the work that George has showed in terms of, and I can see where the perception comes that you think, oh, it's BIM level 2, isn't it? That's easy. And actually, the workflow is very different. You're working with a data dump full of PDF files, and then we're using tools that rapidly pulls all that information together. And as George will probably talk about, he probably doesn't want me to talk about, some of the stuff that we've been doing is running O&M checking. Now, yeah, and it comes down to this: is somebody expected to do all this stuff manually? And we've taken the view that it is a mixture of AI and automation. Now, and they feed off each other as well, which effectively helps you identify the holes and how to actually complete the things. It's not that, and going back to where BIM level 2 is, it's still the emphasis. I mean, George and I have got a long history. I was doing building modeling back in the 80s, and the way that people started to use the building modeling systems was for coordination. And you could see that was really where the biggest benefit. I mean, these were £20,000 workstations, and that was just the equipment, and another 20,000 for the software. So these were very expensive pieces of kit, and you therefore had to sweat it to get the best value out of it. So services engineers would just say, well, we don't model up the whole building, we model up all those areas that are problems. And that's the level which you see federated BIM models are for checking coordination and clash detection. That's where the biggest benefit is. And there, as an ex-architect, your objective is to produce drawings. It's not actually to produce data, because you're not trained in data. You're not trained as to we know what we're doing when we produce a building. We know how people are going to use it because we've designed it, and we create, and we know that we have to create construction drawings so somebody can build it. What we're not trained in is how people are then going to manage that building going forward. Why do they need to be able to have instant access to know that sounder, in the ceiling that's creating a fault is from this particular manufacturer, and it's out of warranty, it's out of the defects liability, so I can't go back to the installer. I have to go and say, right, are we going to replace it, or is there a fault that comes under the warranty and is an extended warranty, so stuff like that. So and data that I'm working on at the moment, I'll just give you an example, is that the installer has done a fantastic drawing with a load of symbols on their drawing that say what everything is, except they don't say what product it relates to. Then they've done a list of all the products, and you've got a choice of 3 different sounders. So which one is it? it's because they just so, well, we knew what it was because we installed it, but they didn't pass that information on digitally. But then nobody thought to ask, say, you need to make sure this connects to this. So it's just, as I say, it's just to sort of emphasize that, you know, we are filling that understanding that digital gap to say, well, what people should be asking for is this. So, for example, if you've got a fire strategy drawing that was done for design stage, it's not a handover. You know, you've got to update it. I mean, we had an example where it was, you know, the building had physically changed, so it didn't match. And you just go, why? Well, the consultants were only employed for this period, so it was a lack. And then we
So
come
with
on
that
to
in
the
mind, Tim. So with that in mind, the model that George shared with us of the hospital, how do you know that was what was actually built? If you've lifted all this information from all of these places, to what assurances do you have that that's actually what's on site?
Well, a lot of the information that we're using is, when in doubt, go to the installer. Go to the installer's information.
Yeah.
That's the closest you're going to get until you get an on-site survey.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of examples that we can give where you know, we know George mentions about the COBE data. The COBE data is just an exchange format of information.
Yes,
but it was generated from a federated BIM model.
Yeah.
And it didn't include, for instance, door numbers for all the doors. So how are you going to relate that to a door schedule? It didn't. And also, in this particular example I'm thinking of, the number of door types that were in the design model was 30, but the number of installer door types was 100. So you just go, okay, but I can work with that because we've got at least the architect's drawings that show where all the doors are. That's another story which George alluded to. But we can see and identify the holes, and then we can take views on it. I mean, some of this stuff, the two projects I think George is alluding to are only a few years old, so they're pretty reasonably accurate. But you know, part of the O&M checking thing is we're looking at is going, well, we should really look at the dates when things were submitted, because if you're testing, if you've got a piece of information and it's got a very old date on it, and you just go, that should be flagged. So we're learning how this goes. The stuff that we did with the O&M checking, we took the manual process and ran a research project to see whether we could do it using AI, and the AI actually can produce better stuff. But I think George wants to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm going to show an example of that a little bit in a moment. One thing I would say, David, and everybody, is that what I think we need to do is look at why the information is being collected. The purpose of that, and then how it's going to be used. So if we look at that floor plan, that one I've just shown you, that can be used to check against Regulation 38 to see if the information that's statutory required has actually been provided. So I guess that's a compliance issue. But in addition to that, it can also be used because you've got spacers that understand what they are and what they're part of. You can then sort of start to question which doors and which fire stopping elements or fire protection elements actually need to be maintained every week or inspected every month or every quarter. Because the relationship between what we're often finding is that you know, certainly in hospitals, there's doors being inspected that don't need inspecting. Because they're not acting as fire doors. One of the big consultants told me 2 weeks ago that they'd done a retrospective fire strategy on a hospital, and they'd substantially cut down the number of compartments. Because they'd made the compartments bigger. Right. And that meant that I think they said it was 120 fire dampers no longer needed to be maintained.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Now that has got a big cost impact
yeah, of course.
on an ongoing basis. It's also, in certainly in a with the BSA, if you could identify which doors are actually acting as fire doors rather than just are they 60 or 30-minute doors,
Yes.
that could make a difference as well in terms of notifying the
Mhm.
regulator. And the final thing with fire strategies is that if you're having a fire risk assessment done and you're not using the current fire strategy, the most up-to-date fire strategy, there's a question mark as to whether it's valid.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, just being cynical about it, I'm not sure whether the people that are doing our fire risk assessments actually have a copy of the fire strategy for the building.
Yeah.
I suspect that's rare. I would imagine.
and
Rightly or wrong.
therefore, and therefore, so we've run a couple of fire strategy workshops since we had the last meeting, David,
Yeah.
which has been recorded, and we've had fire engineers involved in those, and we've worked out that there's ways that we can substantially cut the cost of fire strategy plans
Okay.
by the of creating them, because if the teams have got access to better information, the fire engineer themselves don't need to be hunting around for stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also using 360 photography.
Yeah.
So here's a question: if anybody's interested in in what we've been doing on the retrospective fire strategy front, doing what David was talking about earlier, getting fire engineers to probably provide more useful things. If you just put fire strategy in the chat, we'll share with you the information on that, because I think it is something that's really we're trying to get more people engaged in it, David, to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. I'm conscious that we've spent an hour on our first topic. It's been as always, it's been an interesting conversation. I guess at the core of all of this, we're looking to change culture, aren't we? We're looking to change culture. We're looking to change people's view of data and how they use data. But inevitably, we're all on different stages of that journey. I've always taken the view that you've shared with us what the art of the possible is. It would be wrong to think that that's something that's in the future, because it's something that's here and now and doable now, which is obviously a good thing. So it is always interesting to see what the art of the possible is. But
Can I just show you something that it's not a different topic, but it just aligns with what I think you're saying there. This is some more work that we've been doing to actually put some tangible value against the golden thread.
Okay.
So what we've been doing is saying, right, we've got here, see if it's come up. We've got here the different activities that we go through in terms of the golden thread and what the benefits are. The reason I'm saying this, David, is that if we're going to engage senior managers, the people that are the budget holders, we have to give some tangible benefit to why are we doing this.
Yeah.
So what we've tried to do here is to look at each of the different activities. Why is it important that stakeholders agree what it is that they need out at the end? How can we improve the way the information is captured? How can we improve product information? And so going through in this sort of methodical way with the benefits against each of them, this is something that we're sharing with people to try and build the value of that.
Yeah, no, that would be really interesting to see.
Yeah, and then we've then related that to what's the overall benefit. So here, better coordinated information, better standardization, more auditability through the whole process, improved supply chain enablement, and then we've tried to have a go at putting some financial value against those things as well.
Okay.
So the sort of thing that we might put into a business case. So
how widely has this been distributed at this stage, George? Or is this just the outcome of a conversation?
No. We've got probably 30 or 40 people now contributing to it, and you know, if anybody will like a copy of this, so that they can perhaps contribute towards it. If you put benefits into the chat, we'll share it with you. If that's okay, David.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Thank you. We have 25 minutes left, and there are a few topics we wanted to talk about, Joe. So if people are happy for us to move away from fire strategies, I know that we wanted to field the topic of AWAB's law.
Yes.
We have mentioned it in previous conversations, and you were talking about wanting to investigate how much innovation there is going on in this space, particularly in the world of new developments. I don't know if you've got any more you want to share about that, George, to start a conversation about it.
Yeah, we've had 2 workshops now, and one of the and we've got small teams together that are engaged in addressing AWAB's law. You know, so
and is that both new developments and existing assets?
Existing assets principally.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Because that's where the big sort of panic is at the moment.
Yeah, of course.
So we've had a couple of workshops on that, which it would be great to get any input from anybody here. And we had one this morning, David, which would interest you on the development side, because somebody's developed a new technology that apparently you can use when you're actually building or stripping out, that actually absorbs the moisture, which causes the problem. So it's not been tested yet, but the guy that's promoting it seems to have got his act together on it. So that's one example. And if anybody's interested in that, we can share that. But the other thing that I'm quite taken with is that one of our members is from Wheatley, which is a big housing association in Scotland, and Connor Stevenson, his name is, and he's come up with a process that we're exploring at the moment of what happens when a call comes in, how it's to be addressed, what procedure needs to be tracked and followed. So what I'd quite like to do is ask people, you know, on the call, how are you doing it? I can see Benedicta from Southern here. So do you know what Southern are doing on this, Benedicta? Maybe she stepped away for a moment.
Yeah, she could be. I mean, is there anyone else from kind of housing management backgrounds on the call that knows how their business is responding to the challenges of this? It's open to anybody. It only gives George a break then from having to talk all the time.
Thank you.
I mean,
Just one comment I would make again. Sorry, it's Andy. It's just
Thanks,
that the
Andrew.
TPI have got a whole piece on condensation. I don't know if anybody's members of the TPI, the Property Institute, kind of more geared up for leasehold, but the TPI do have a section in regards to AWEB's law and condensation
Okay.
and what the appropriate responses should be. So for anyone that wants to, it's worth a look.
Andrew, thank you. No, that's useful. And I'll be honest, I'm not close to what we're doing for our existing. I know we're doing an awful lot of work in this space, but I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, because as you say, from a new development point of view, it's not particularly high on the radar, rightly or wrongly.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
I mean,
George.
I've got I can show what Connor has.
Yeah, that'd be useful.
come up with.
Just give it a context then, won't it?
Yeah, so this is the workflow. But you know, if nobody here is involved in the AWAB's law bit, perhaps you could introduce your colleagues who are involved in AWAB's law, because I think the point is knowing, you know, it's using the spatial, using the stuff that we're gathering for fire strategies, for example.
Yeah.
It's equally useful for being able to know which flats next to which, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Debbie's got a hand up.
She has. Yeah, Debbie, welcome.
Hi, we do our AWAB's law similar to this. We do the online questionnaire, which our customer services manage. They pull the answers over to the compliance team, who review the data that we already hold on the property.
Mm-hmm.
And then we assign it to a surveyor, depending on what level the mold is.
Yeah.
And the vulnerability of the resident.
So I came across this a couple of years ago in an asset management space where we were installing monitoring devices into homes that could actually measure moisture levels. So we could deal with things a bit more proactively, if you like. So rather than waiting for customers to come to us, we could kind of predict where we were likely to have problems.
We've
Tim.
trialed.
Sorry.
We've trialed monitors in this
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
But the ones we've trialed, because we're in a poor signal area,
Okay.
they don't work. They start off working, then they drop out, then they come back in again. It's too unreliable for us.
Just not robust enough.
No, but we've because we've done all our stock data, we're more or less up to date with that. We're making sure that on the stock data we're pulling through everything we need to know about mold or fans, or we're trying to encompass everything in one go.
Yeah, sure. Okay. No,
Can I
thanks
just
for sharing
ask,
that, Debbie.
sorry to jump in.
That's right.
Can I ask Debbie, is that on legacy buildings of like so many years older? Is that new build that you're working with?
All of them. We've got 2,500 legacy, and then we've got the sort of middle-aged newer builds, and then we've got the new builds. But we're trying to do stocks on all of our stock.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with middle age, Debbie, just saying.
No, I don't mean that.
Old
I
age
was
is the
like
problem.
not new, but not old. Do you know what I mean? In the middle bracket.
The only reason I ask is if you have any sort of callback then on any of the construction information to, recoup any of your costs against something that might have been poorly designed or constructed.
So we do have a few development issues where so basically the development team work with and keep the property until it's out of defects.
Yep.
And then it's handed over to like compliance, and then that's when we tend to find issues like the bathroom windows don't open, or the extractor fans aren't to, you know, what we want. So they've passed what is required, but they're not good enough, especially if there's like no windows, which is more of a design in bathrooms or things like that.
Yeah. Tim, you've had your hand up patiently again.
Yes, thanks. I'll be quite okay. So I've got a real case that my cleaner, she rents a flat from the local authority, ground floor. It's got rising damp, and I lent her the my moisture device. And I said, look, and I taught her how to use it so that she could send photographs in and things like that. But there's two questions really I've got. Is what about the resident communication in terms of how they interact with the housing officers, and are they okay with people doing their own assessments, and is that making it easier, or is that just making the problem worse? And the second is, this flat had already had remedial work where a whole wall had been the plaster had been taken off and it had been replastered, but the underlying issue of the rising damp on a ground floor flat seems to me that it was a remedial contractor defect, that they didn't do the proper work to stop the damp from rising in the first place. Doesn't seem to be any injection at the where the wall meets the floor, or even inspection. And I'm just wondering about how the housing associations or the landlords are actually able to make sure that their contractors are actually following the best practices and understand, because once you've plastered a wall up, it's hard to sit, once it's covered up, you don't know. So it's a matter of making sure that people are taking the photographs as the stages are happening before things get covered up, so you know exactly what was done.
Has anyone on the call got experience of dealing with the residents on this issue that could answer Tim's question? I mean, my experience of this is many years ago when I was part of an asset management or head of an asset management team, and cases that came to me tended to be quite extreme cases. But I just remember conversations being very difficult with residents trying to balance a conversation about the kind of physical attributes of a property and some of the behavioural issues that were leading to damp, and trying to balance out those two things was always a very challenging conversation.
David,
Yeah.
I think on this AWAB's law, it seems to me as though the people on this group are less sort of
Less
focused
involved.
at it.
Yeah.
I think to wrap it up from this perspective, we do have people within the community. So if anybody's interested in connecting with what they're doing, then I suggest that that's what we ask people to do, and come back to us.
Yeah, so there's a group running already. So again, if people want to get engaged with that, then if they were to write AWABs in the chat, then we could follow that up.
Exactly. Yeah, because we've actually got recordings of the sessions with a summary of actions and things like that. So that's something that we could do.
Yeah.
The one other thing I did want to try and cover, David, if we could, we've got a meeting next Thursday on the use of AI and data engineering on, in particular, on handover information. And the handover information, the digital handover information, isn't just from a new build perspective. One of the things that we're really learning is it's also for, maybe retrofit projects and, smaller projects. You still need that handover information to be coming through in a coherent way. So what I'd like to do, if I may, is just talk through. Tim's been doing quite a lot of work in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Unless anybody's got any other topics that they want to cover. I mean, it was one of the things that we had on the agenda. Is that okay for me to step in and
Yeah,
start?
that's fine. If we don't get through the agenda, we can pick them up next time, George. So no problem.
Okay. Okay, so this what we've been doing is looking at addressing how currently, even if there's a BIM model, often it's the design model that comes through to the FM team rather than a proper as-built BIM model, for the reasons that I think you've raised, and somebody else on the call earlier was saying that that's also not happening, which that's been our experience. We're not seeing the detailed information going into the BIM model, and in practice, that's not really fundamentally a problem as long as the data's good, because we can also use 360 photography to capture a lot of what actually gets installed. So one of the things that we've developed, or which we'd like to encourage people to get on board and test with us, is to be able to take a substantial O&M manual. In this particular case, we were given 16,000 documents. So 16,000 documents that were not particularly well organized, but we got them as a zip file. And this tool that we've created allows us to strip them back to 6,000 files, which is still a lot, but it also goes through and identifies quickly which ones actually don't really exist. So you can see that you've got 35 there that have got zero size. And Tim can explain this much better than me, but what it's actually doing, it's doing a very quick check as to whether the information that's being handed over is coherent. What we've also done is then worked with the client to come up with a standard methodology of auditing the O&Ms. So to be able to go through in a methodical way to see if the O&M information actually provides what you need. And what we're actually doing here is snagging the O&Ms.
Yeah.
Now, what that does, it gives people a little bit more time when they're under pressure to sign something off. They can actually go back and say, well, actually, there's some errors here. There's incomplete stuff. So in this particular case, there was 54 work packages. Each of them had their own O&M information that was all compiled, but actually, what we've got here is the identification of what the gaps are. And what we've then done is started to create AI tools so that manual checking process, that manual auditing that we were showing at the beginning, has now been translated into some reusable prompts. And the manual report that was created can now be automated. So if anybody on the call's working with that maybe you've got O&Ms for an existing building and you actually want to make more sense of them, what we're actually looking for at the moment, because the more examples that we've got, the better. We'd like to investigate some of these things with you, and we can then get the teams to look at them, because these are the sorts of issues that we've been finding. The maintenance cycle, for example, is based on the design specifications, not the manufacturer's information. So you've got these sorts of things. And what this is doing, going back to what JP was saying earlier, in the green, this was very much a BIM project. In fact, there was lots of BIM managers working on this one, but there's just a complete disconnect. Do you want to explain this, Tim?
Yeah, sure. So the Kobe file that you see on the top left was generated from a federated model. And what we identified here was that they'd not included the door numbers. And the bottom right is the manufacturer's schedule, drawing schedule, door schedule. And you can see there that the only thing that you can try and tally on is spaces. And then if you look at the door location description, you've got it concatenated with a description. So you can't match on door numbers. And then on door types, there were 30 door types in the federated BIM model, but there are actually 100 in the installer's schedule. Again, the schedules also, it was baked into the O&M, so it had to be unbaked, so you have to extract it. That's getting a lot easier now to do those sort of things using AI tools. You can do these things right rapidly. So that's an example there. And then so we can turn it back into a readable data set, but on a project, you're not going to get one door schedule, you're going to get multiple door schedules, steel doors, timber doors, aluminium doors, doors to the roof plant areas, etc., doors in the external fenestration. Now, fortunately, there was the architects had produced drawings which had the door numbers on them, and this is obviously, as it was a BIM level 2. But again, they'd made a mistake because they'd copied the doors from one level to another and then manually changed them. There are tools inside these modeling systems that allow you to automatically update these things. So we ended up with door nomenclature. The door nomenclature in this case was, it said D hyphen and then a level number. And you can see there that we've got on the first floor in the top left, which is the first floor. And you can see that the door from the office into the corridor to the lift lobby is actually level 2, and it appears on the 5th floor and also on the the 4th floor as well. So simple mistakes made that can really cause a problem, because if you then use this, you can't tie it back to the door schedule. The door number is that key that holds all the data together. So these are sort of simple things that need to be checked and tested at the construction end. The construction team needs to make sure that they're checking these things. And I think a lot of this is all about checking that your data is actually valid. And if nobody's doing it, then it will slip in.
So that was the point I was making earlier, that the information is being produced. You're paying for it to be produced.
Yes.
But because it's not being validated and checked adequately, then people won't invest the time.
We just a quick question. You in developing this, and as you know, George, we do an awful lot of work with Zootech / Create Master.
Yeah.
Are they part of this conversation, or are they quite separate?
No, I mean we're actually using some of the Zootech information. I'm not sure that they are as engaged as they could be. They come along to the meetings, but they've not yet contributed on that. Yeah. When it was Create Master, we used to have quite an active connection with them.
Sure.
But the other aspect of this is that once we can get the information into this right sort of format, what we can actually then do is run. We can actually use a version of ChatGPT with some constraints to ask questions of the data. So, for example, this is asking the plain language question: do we have all the fire safety information we need?
Yeah.
And it goes through very quickly. Say it gives you an answer, no. yeah, but then it goes through into detail to say what we have got and what's missing. And
So
yeah,
we've got a meeting set up, or we're in the process of setting up a meeting with Zootech, who are talking to us about their AI capability, functionality. So what I don't know is whether that is all about the quality of the contents of the information, or whether that's just a kind of searchability for documentation. We've not spoken to them yet, but this is really interesting because from our point of view, we, for everyone that's here, we typically use Zootech and Create Master to assemble our O&M documentation. We're then reliant upon, we appoint a team of quality management consultants throughout the construction period, ranging from lift consultants, M&E consultants, heating consultants, fire consultants, all doing kind of quality assurance work for us through site inspection. But then at the end of it, we ask them to go through the R&M documentation to kind of check its accuracy and its content. But that's a very manual, clunky process.
And I think that's where we're trying to address it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That is the thing that it's soul destroying, to be honest.
Yeah.
If you ask for it. But the thing is, if there's a table, so what we do is we've got a create the tool to do the table extraction, and the table extraction says, right, here's a list of all the document references, and not the file names, just the references. And you say, right, okay, I've got all the document, I dumped all the documents. Can I find that reference in that document, document set? It's not rocket science, but if you haven't got the tool to actually do that, then you're sort of going, well, can I do this in Excel? And you've probably said, well, if you're pretty good at writing VB or working out your formulas, but you can also get it's not easy to do that. It's far easier just to write a program that does it, but you've got to have a pipeline that says, what am I doing and why am I doing it? Again, the product data. Okay, so you get a list. We've used all these products. Here are the technicals. We've done a technical submission called this, and you say, right, okay, I'll automate that. You've given me a table. I'll do a quick automation to say, can I find the document that relates there? Yes or no. If it's a no, it's a fail. It's as simple as that. And you just go, well, you need to fix that bit because nobody. And the worst, and sometimes it is there. It's just called something else. And also there's a lot of other things as well, little things where so for example, at the moment, I'm looking at apartment types, and the apartment types descriptions in the documents which shows you the apartment type is got nomenclature that says it's something dot something, and then in the actual document drawings themselves, it's now an underscore. And you just go, oh, no, but it's not for everyone. And you just go inconsistencies. And somebody's got to be able to go, I'm going to fail this from that simple thing. It's like you didn't dot the I. And the dot on the I meant it all failed because the machine can't read it. Nobody will be able to find it.
You're a harsh man, Tim, but I understand.
No, but but it's fixed. The thing is, what's the frustrating bit about it is it is fixable. But it's only fixable if you can test your own stuff. And I think there's a lack of the fact I mentioned before, they're not trained to produce data. Okay.
No.
And that is where we've got to change the culture and say, well, you are now, and you've been asked to do it for over 12 years now.
So Tim,
or even longer.
Tim, we must stop. Yeah.
I'm conscious of the time.
Yeah. I was just going to say, if anybody would like to get involved in what we're doing here with the automated checking, either because you've got information, because you've got projects, or you want to be involved in the checking itself, then please, put maybe O&M checking or something like that. I'm not quite sure.
That's not very creative of you, George. That
no, it's not, is it really?
But I can't think of anything better. Just put O&M. Just put O&M in the chat. And for me personally, I'm really interested in this, George, because I'm doing a lot of work with Zootech at the moment, trying to add detail to what they're doing. So yeah, that would be really helpful. So I will put O&M in the chat. There you go. Listen,
I think the fundamental thing, David, is what Tim was talking about earlier, and that's looking at what needs to be connected to what.
Yes.
Now, the challenge that I think we've got is Zootech's got I know the Create Master team quite well. I've done for many years. Some of them friends, and the challenge is that they're geared up to collect information.
Yeah.
And they, in some cases, the people that are doing that collection, they don't know what they're
not technical experts.
No.
And that's not a criticism. That's just a fact. So, we're not expecting them to present us with documentation that they know to be accurate. They present us with a list of documents that corresponds to the list of documents that they're expecting to see.
But the point is that the information that's in the documents or in the drawings or in the product information is what Tim and the Golden Thread team, I see, can help with. I mean, people like Justin Gillard, for example, that I think Justin's on the call. He understands enough about the detail of how all this is put together.
Yes.
To be able to reverse engineer it. So that's the sort of expertise I think we need to bring together. So
no, agreed. No, really useful. Thanks, George. Thanks, Tim, for kind of bringing that to the table. And as we've always said, if people want to get further involved in the detail, then
exactly.
please share.
We've got a workshop next Thursday.
Okay. Thank you. Run over time. Apologies. Thank you to George particularly for bringing some of these subjects to the table. But thank you to everyone for attending and for those of you that have contributed. Hope you found it interesting, and hopefully it's kind of piqued your curiosity about some of the more detailed things that are going on within the BIM4Housing group that you can get yourselves involved with. So appreciate your time, and we will be doing this again in 2 months. Do we do it every 2 months? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So we wish you all well, and we'll speak soon. Take care, everybody.
Thank you,
gents.